I found a lost girl in the parking lot, never knowing she was the billionaire's daughter. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The sun hung low in the sky, casting eerie shadows across the cracked pavement. My heart raced, and my palms were clammy. That parking lot, the one I thought I knew so well, felt more like a trap. I spotted her. A small figure, huddled by a row of dust-covered cars, big tears rolling down her cheeks. She looked lost, alone. I rushed over, driven by an impulse I couldn't explain. "Hey, are you okay?" My voice trembled, and I knelt down to her level. She didn't answer. Instead, she just stared at me, wide-eyed. Her hair was a wild mess, tangled and dirty. There was something about her, a spark in those blue eyes that seemed out of place. As I reached out, she flinched, pulling back like I was the monster in her nightmare. I tried again. "It's all right, I won't hurt you." But my reassurance hung heavy in the air. Why was she alone? Where was her family? Panic clawed at my chest. I scanned the parking lot, my heart pounding louder with every passing second. It was almost closing time, the stores were empty and silent. "Can you tell me your name?" I whispered softly. A shiver of fear coursed through me as I noticed faint, dark bruises peeking from her sleeves. My stomach tightened. What had she been through? "Lila," she finally whispered, her voice barely audible. My heart broke. This poor girl didn't just look lost, she looked broken. I felt an overwhelming urge to shield her, to protect her from whatever monster lurked just beyond the edge of the glowing streetlights. But who would I be to her? Just a girl who stumbled upon her tears. A gust of wind swept through the lot, sending a chill racing down my spine. I felt eyes on us, shadows lurking just out of sight. My instincts screamed danger. "Do you want me to take you somewhere safe?" I asked, holding my breath, desperate for her to nod. Just then, a sleek black car pulled up, its tinted windows reflecting the fading daylight, and a man stepped out. He was tall, intimidating, dressed in a suit that screamed power. My pulse quickened as I caught the twisted smile on his face. Lila gasped, shrinking back against the car tire. "No! Please," she cried, and those words reverberated in my ears as disbelief twisted in my gut. "Lila! Come here!" he commanded. His voice was smooth, but cold enough to freeze my blood. I took a protective step forward, but the darkness within me flickered with doubt. "Who are you?" I demanded, my voice shaky yet defiant. The man laughed, a chilling sound. "Just a concerned father looking for his lost daughter." My heart dropped. Could it be true? I felt the weight of the world on my shoulders, uncertainty gnawing at my sanity. The ground seemed to shift beneath me. Lila was more than just a lost girl. She was a pawn in a game I didn't understand, and I had no idea what I had just walked into. "Lila, come on," he said, his tone softer now, like honey coated in poison. She hesitated, glancing back at me, those wide blue eyes betraying desperation. "Please, don't go," I whispered. I felt the heat of our surroundings close in, the air thickening with tension. An avalanche of thoughts crashed through my mind, each one more terrifying than the last. What would happen if I let her go? What if I didn't? The choices lay heavy like stones in my heart, and just like that, her path twisted. I had a choice too, but what was right? As I stood there, heart racing and breath catching in my throat, the world shifted, teetering on the edge of something big, something dangerous. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash the like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The unsettling tension hung thick in the air, and I felt the pounding of my heart drown out the distant sounds of life from the street beyond. I had never faced anything like this, fear coiled tightly in my chest, but somehow, I couldn't let go of the small flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, I could help Lila. Please, don't go, I repeated, my eyes locked onto hers, silently pleading for her to stay. The man took a confident step toward her, and instinctively, I moved closer to block his path. Get away from her, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Who was I to challenge a man who radiated authority? His dark eyes glimmered with a mix of amusement and annoyance, but I refused to let fear consume me. You're making a mistake, he warned, his tone slipping from cordial to threatening. I could see Lila trembling slightly, caught between two worlds, one of darkness, and one that offered warmth and protection, albeit uncertain. Lila, you don't have to go with him. I can help you, I declared, willing her to believe. But the doubts flickered behind her eyes, and for the first time, I could see the weight of choices pressing down on her slender shoulders. He reached out, brushing a finger along her arm where the bruises peeked through. Lila, sweetheart, I promised you I'd take care of you. Remember what I said? You deserve better, better? She echoed, her voice breaking. The sharpness of that word cracked something deep within me, my own heart aching for her. Her gaze darted between us, each moment stretching out in agonizing suspense. I could feel time slipping away, a thief in the shadows, and every passing second brought more danger. Let her go, I urged him, my desperation surfacing. You can't just take her back into whatever that is. I gestured at the black car, a vehicle that looked like it could swallow her whole and not spit her back out. He chuckled softly, a sound that sent shivers racing down my spine. You think you can protect her? Look around you, he taunted, glancing dismissively at the empty parking lot. No one even cares, but I did care. I did. You don't have to do this, I replied, more to myself than him, as though I were trying to convince my own racing thoughts. What if he was right? I had just stumbled into the depths of a nightmare, barely grasping its complexities. Lila's small frame trembled under his gaze, and suddenly she stepped forward, her chin raised defiantly. I want to go with her, she said, her voice stronger than I had ever heard. My breath caught, she was choosing me, and in that moment, everything shifted. The man's expression hardened, the facade of kindness dropping away. You don't know what you're saying, Lila. This isn't a game, neither is my life. She cried. The words sliced through the tension, raw and real. And just like that, something within me snapped. Then let her choose. I shouted, the adrenaline coursing through my veins igniting a fragile spark of courage. His eyes narrowed, and I could see disappointment mixed with anger, a volatile cocktail ready to explode. You want to save her? You think this is some kind of act of heroism? I'm her father, and I always will be. Lila recoiled as if struck, jolting back to my side. No, she whispered, the pain slicing through each syllable. You're not. You can't be. In that moment, fraught with raw emotion, everything came to a head. The air crackled, the world around us narrowing into the dim light of the parking lot, and that sliver of hope I had clung to suddenly felt precarious. Lila, it's okay, I whispered, wanting to comfort her, wanting to wrap her in warm protection. But she turned to me with desperation in her eyes, a plea that sent a shiver down my spine. What if I was leading her into a trap of my own making? What if, by trying to help, I was putting her in even greater danger? Please, she begged, tears pooling in those bright blue eyes, I don't know what to do. Before I could answer, the man pulled out his phone, a sinister smile creeping back onto his face. You think you're the hero here? I'll show you what happens when you interfere. As he raised the device, my heart raced with panic. What are you doing? I shouted, stepping closer to Lila, gripping her hand tightly in mine, but the click of a camera shutter echoed through the lot, freezing me in place. I turned toward him, dread pooling in my gut, realizing with fear that perhaps I had turned the page of a story I was too unprepared to unfold. Just a little keepsake to remind me of this. You won't believe what I'll do with it, he said, eyes gleaming with a twisted sense of triumph. Then, before I could comprehend the consequences, he stepped back, slipping into the car, his laughter lingering in the air like a dark cloud. You're the one in danger now, he called out before the engine roared to life, the car moving from the lot just as quickly as it had arrived. And there I stood, the weight of Lila's small hand in mine, the harsh reality of our shattered moments sinking in. The darkness felt thicker now, and I knew one truth, the battle was just beginning. As we faced the quiet aftermath of chaos, the weight of the unknown loomed ahead, like a storm gathering just beyond the horizon waiting to unleash its fury. The chill in the air settled like a shroud, as the sounds of the city faded into a distant hum, leaving only the rapid thudding of my heart echoing my mounting fears. I turned to Lila, who stood beside me, her eyes wide and shimmering with unshed tears. The shock of what had just happened hung heavy between us, and for a moment, words felt too fragile to bear. "Are you okay?" I whispered, drawing her closer to me. I could feel her small frame trembling, every breath a fragile reminder of the confrontation we had just endured. She nodded slowly, but doubt lingered in her expression, and I could sense the tempest of emotions swirling within her. "I don't know," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I thought I could escape him." The vulnerability in her words struck me like a bolt. I brushed a lock of hair behind her ear, hoping to provide a semblance of comfort, a promise that she was no longer alone in this fight. "You're safe now." "I won't let him hurt you." She looked up, searching my eyes with an intensity that felt almost piercing. I wished I could give her the strength she needed to break free from her past. I understood now, this was more than just a fight for her freedom. It was a fight against the ghosts of who he had convinced her she was. "Maybe we should leave," Lila suggested, her voice trembling. "Before he comes back." A shiver ran down my spine at the thought of that man's return, and I felt a surge of protectiveness swelling within me. "Yes, we should go." But where? Her brows knitted together, and I could see the gears turning in her mind, a mix of fear and determination. "There's an old cafe a few blocks from here. It's where I always ran to when I needed time alone." Even the mention of a sanctuary was a fragile flicker in the darkness. "Okay. Let's get there," I said, gripping her hand harder, as if the mere act of holding on could safeguard us from the storm brewing behind us. We began walking swiftly, the concrete beneath our feet a stark reminder of the worlds we were fleeing. Each step felt like a countdown, and I kept stealing glances behind us, half expecting the dark car to reappear, its driver eager for retribution. As we turned the corner, a flickering neon sign broke through the shadowscape Luna. The display felt almost magical, promising warmth, conversation, and perhaps even safety, away from the chaos that pursued us. "There it is," Lila said, her voice tinged with both relief and trepidation. Inside, the atmosphere was soothing, filled with the rich aroma of coffee and pastries. A few patrons sat huddled in hushed conversations, unknowingly cocooned in their own worlds, their laughter a distant echo of normalcy. "You'll grab us some coffee," I proposed, wanting to give her a moment to breathe. I could see the tension in her shoulders begin to ease, if only just slightly. "What do you like?" "Just black," she replied softly, a flicker of a smile curving her lips. It was fragile but beautiful, and I clung to it like a lifebuoy. As I walked to the counter, I couldn't shake the weight pressing on my chest. The barista, a woman with kind eyes, noticed my distraction. "You look like you've had a tough night," she said, her voice warm with empathy. "Just trying to help a friend," I said, hoping to mask the depth of the dread I felt. "Friends are important." "Hold on to that," she replied, gently pouring 2 mugs of coffee. There was a kindness in her words that soothed, and I felt an unexpected warmth wash over me amidst the chill pressing against my spine. I thanked her, accepting the steaming cups. When I returned to Lila, she was staring out the window, her expression vacillating between hope and despair. "What if he finds us?" she asked, her eyes cloudy with uncertainty. I wished I had an answer, something to alleviate the wild worry chasing us. "Well, figure it out," I promised, my voice firm as I placed a cup in front of her. "You're not alone anymore." Well, stay one step ahead of him. The moment felt like a fragile truce, a breath of air amidst an underwater struggle. But as I saw her take a drink, her hands shaking slightly, the doubt returned to cloud her eyes. "But what if I'm dragging you into this? You don't know anything about him." "I may not know everything, but I know enough to fight for you." As her gaze lingered on me, I felt that quiet understanding settling in, a bond forming from the rawness of the night. But before we could solidify our resolve, the cafe door swung open, and something inside me twisted coldly. A tall figure blurred the threshold, silhouetted against the backdrop of streetlights. He stepped in, scanning the room. Calm dread washed over me. It was him. My heart stopped, every instinct urging me to stand tall and protect Lila, but in my gut, there was an icy fear of what would come next. His eyes locked on mine, and a confident smirk curled his lips. "Did you really think you could escape me?" he said, his voice dripping with malice that echoed through the cafe. The air shifted, and I realized suddenly that the night had just begun to spiral deeper into chaos. The atmosphere inside Café Luna thickened with tension as the air felt heavy, alive with a sense of impending doom. Lila's eyes widened in horror as she caught sight of him, and instinctively, she shrank back in her seat, her small frame trembling. I felt a surge of bile rise in my throat as his smirk widened, a grotesque expression that suggested he relished the fear he instilled in her. "Let's go," I whispered urgently, leaning close to Lila, but the words barely left my mouth before he took a step forward, an unmistakable predatory glint in his eyes. "Running away again?" "How typical," he taunted, each word carefully measured to suffocate her spirit. The other patrons turned their heads, eyes darting from him to us, curiosity mingled with palpable fear. I felt the urgency, every heartbeat pulsed with the fire of adrenaline coursing through me. "Stay behind me," I instructed Lila, rising to shield her from his view. Instinctively, I positioned myself between her and the storm brewing in front of us. My palms were clammy, and my heart raced. "Each breath I took felt like it could be my last. No one's leaving," he declared, the arrogance in his tone illuminating the depths of his control. "I just want to talk." I glanced back at Lila. She was staring up at me, eyes glazed with terror and confusion. "We have to go now," I insisted, but her fear kept her rooted in place. "Why do you care so much for her?" he continued, his voice dripping with condescension. "She's nothing without me. I made her who she is." Every cell in my body ignited with rage. It was infuriating to hear him speak about her as if she were a mere possession. "She's not yours." I spat back, realization washing over me in waves. This was more than just control, it was an absolute rejection of Lila's autonomy, of who she truly was. "Is that what you think?" He grinned, his arrogant bravado slipping momentarily as he stepped closer, saturating the air with his foul scent. "Let me show you how wrong you are." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device, raising it above his head like a trophy. My heart sank. The glint of a tracking device sparkled under the overhead lights. "Wherever she goes, I will always find her," he said, a sinister pride lacing every word. "And so will the rest of my associates." "You're merely delaying the inevitable." Lila's breath caught in her throat, and in that moment, I saw the flicker of defiance deep within Hera's spark that reminded me she was more resilient than he ever gave her credit for. I tightened my grip on the table, my mind racing for a way out. "Come on, Lila. We need to move," I urged, my gaze flickering back to her. To my surprise, she took a deep breath, her eyes alight with determination that nearly made me stumble. "No," she began, her voice rising above the din of disbelief caught in the cafe's air. "I won't let you control me any longer." Before I could comprehend what was happening, she stood, her stance fierce and unwavering. My heart filled with an impossible mix of pride and fear for her safety as she faced the man who had tormented her for far too long. "I'm not going back to you," she declared, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. The smirk on his face faltered, replaced with anger. "You think you can stand against me?" "Yes," she replied, the conviction in her voice rallying strength from somewhere deep inside. "I won't just run away this time." For a fleeting moment, the weight of the world slipped away, and I felt a flicker of hope ignite between us. Maybe together, we could fight. But it vanished as quickly as it came, when he lunged toward her, a wolf rushing for its prey. My instincts kicked in, adrenaline surged as I moved between them, shoulder checked with his offensive strike, just as Lila gasped, "Run!" I yelled, the raw urgency tumbling from my throat as I shoved her backward to safety. She stumbled, recovering herself just in time to dart for the door, fear propelling her forward. The confrontation escalated. The cafe erupted into chaos as the patrons scattered, chairs scraping against the floor in a frantic rush. I felt a hot surge of adrenaline and anger tearing through me, but the man was there, blocking my path, fists clenched. "You think you can save her?" he snarled, advancing on me with a dangerous glimmer of madness bubbling beneath the surface. "You have no idea what you're up against, and what if he was right?" In that moment of volatile panic, everything shifted. The cafe, its haunting warmth and comforting aroma, felt like a memory collapsing into dust as I faced this looming shadow of her past. A realization hit me, a crashing wave of dread and revelation. My mind raced even as he bore down on me, but then I saw Lila burst through the cafe door, her determined figure pulling me back to what mattered most, but as I surged towards her, the man's voice cut through the panic like glass. "You'll regret this move, and so will she." Just then, a siren blared outside, the sound vibrating against my chest, drowning out the chaos. I realized with a start that the police were approaching. Hope flickered, but just as quickly, it faded when he cast one last menacing glance back at me, eyes flashing with venom. "Just wait, they'll be back for you both." And with that, he slipped away into the sea of shadows just outside the cafe, leaving us frozen in a web of uncertainty, our hearts pounding with fear and courage intertwined. Lila turned to me, panic lacing her features. "What do we do?" But even as I racked my brain for answers, something deeper clawed at the edges of my memory, whispering truths I wasn't ready to confront. A name, a secret I never thought would resurface. The weight of it threatened to envelop us both in the tumultuous storm on the horizon before we even had a chance to catch our breath. The air outside Cafe Luna crackled with sheer desperation as Lila and I burst into the dimly lit parking lot, the echo of our pounding hearts drowning out the sirens that screamed in the distance. All that remained of the chaos inside was a phantom of fear, lingering like smoke in the air. I glanced back at the cafe, its warmth now a quiet relic overshadowed by the chilling threat of the man who had pursued Lila with the tenacity of a storm. "Where do we go?" Lila asked, her breath hitching in her throat as her eyes darted around. The parking lot was partially deserted, flickering lights casting a melancholic glow on her face. "Anywhere but here," I urged, taking her hand, feeling the warmth of her skin against the cold bite of the night. "We need to get somewhere safe." Lila nodded, her determination seeming to waver with each passing moment, and I could feel the weight of uncertainty settle between us like a tangible mist. I led her towards my car, each step punctuated by an unsettling silence that hung in the air like a sword ready to fall. As I fumbled with my keys, a figure emerged from the shadows, a silhouette I couldn't place at first. Panic knotted in my stomach, but then something strange happened. The figure stepped into the glow of a nearby street lamp. A soft gasp escaped Lilith's lips as her features softened in astonishment. "Anna?" she whispered, a hint of disbelief tinged with hope. The figure had a cascade of dark hair, and eyes that reflected empathy and understanding. It was Anna, Lila's childhood friend, a girl who had always seemed out of reach as Lila was swept away into that life before the darkness. I felt a flicker of relief surge through me, but it was quickly quelled by the urgency of our situation. "Lila!" Anna breathed, rushing towards us. I was so worried. "I saw everything at the cafe." "Is he?" "He's gone for now," I interjected, eyeing the streets, my instincts on high alert. "But we're not safe yet." Anna's gaze shifted between us. "You have to come with me. My parents are out of town, and I can hide you." Lila hesitated, clearly caught in the tangled web of trust already established with Anna since childhood. "What about my father?" she implored, her voice quaking. "He won't stop searching for me." "He won't find you when you're with me," Anna assured, but the uncertainty in Lila's eyes was palpable. "Please. I won't let him hurt you again." In that moment, something clicked inside me. "Do you know where he's going to look first?" I asked, attempting to peel back the layers of anxiety. Lilith's lips quivered as she responded, "He'll always go home." "Then it's time to sever those ties once and for all," I said with an intensity that caught them both off guard. "We can't hide, we need to face this together." With a hesitant nod, Lila straightened herself, but just as we moved toward the car, the distant wail of police sirens grew closer, a reminder that they were merely a heartbeat away. Adrenaline surged as the reality of our circumstances crashed over me like a rogue wave. "We need to hurry," I urged again, but as I pushed forward, applying pressure on the gas pedal, an inkling of panic surged through me. The memories of Lilith's past, which had been lurking at the edges of my consciousness like ghosts, started to crystallize. In the midst of everything, it struck me that her father wasn't just any man hiding in the shadows. He was a prominent figure, a billionaire with connections that could ensnare us in an entanglement greater than our fears. "Wait." I slammed on the brakes, turning to Lila. "What is your father's full name? Who is he? I need to know." Lilith's expression transformed, panic shifting into something deeper. "You don't understand." Her voice trembled as she began to piece together the puzzle we had inadvertently stumbled upon. "My parents, they're not just wealthy. They're involved in things, dangerous things." Before she could elaborate, another flash of headlights glared through the windshield. "We need to get out of here." Anna shouted, her hands trembling. Drive! Lila urged, urgency breaking through her fear. God, those words pierced through me with an unsettling truth. This couldn't be just about escaping, it was a reckoning. I turned the ignition as adrenaline coursed through us all. But where do we go? I demanded, urgency pulling at me. Anywhere but his home, Lila replied, tears pooling in her eyes. We need a plan. As I drove away, weaving through the streets that felt eternally vast, I glimpsed Lila sitting back, her fragile bravado cracking as old fears threatened to resurface. Just when I thought we had escaped the worst of it, a realization struck me. What if the danger wasn't just external? Knuckles clenched against the steering wheel, I stole a glance at Lila, a sense of foreboding washing over me. Lila, what are we truly running from? The silence yawned in the car, thick and heavy, her face reflecting both vulnerability and the shadows of a past we had yet to uncover. And then, standing on the precipice of clarity, she whispered, there's something I haven't told you. My father's not just coming for me. He's looking for you too. The weight of Lilith's revelation pressed down on my chest like a leaden blanket, smothering any hope that had dared to flicker in the back of my mind. My heart raced as I processed her words, the implications cascading over me in a torrent. It felt as though the ground had shifted beneath us, opening a chasm filled with new fears that now entangled my life with hers in ways I hadn't imagined. What do you mean he's looking for me? I demanded, my voice coming out sharper than I intended. The anger and disbelief surged through me as I tried to reconcile this new truth. The storm that had been brewing since the cafe was now a raging tempest. Lila swallowed hard, tears spilling from the corners of her eyes. He's been keeping tabs on you, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. After everything that happened between us, he became obsessed. He thinks that if he can control me, he can control who I love. And Johan knows how close we've become. That's insane. I pulled the car to the side of the road, my mind racing 1,000 miles per hour. But why would your father care about me? I'm just a girl who he thinks is an influence. I groped for some semblance of reason in her twisted reality. He doesn't understand love as we do. To him, it's a game. Power, control, manipulation, Lila elucidated, her voice cracking with the weight of her confession. He believes that if he eliminates the threat or the distraction, I will be bound to him. Lila, you shouldn't have to run from your home because of this monster, Anna interjected, a fierce protectiveness rising within her. We will figure this out together. But I sensed that Anna's words were beginning to echo in a void filled with uncertainty. The distance between us hadn't just expanded by miles, it felt like an insurmountable chasm carved by secrets lurking in the dark. My assurance of safety felt fragile. With each heartbeat, the fear that enveloped us gradually morphed into a palpable realness, trembling in the shadows of the night. Where will we go? My voice was a whisper to the swirling storm inside me. He must have resources, a network of people who will help him find us. Lilith's face was an open book of fear and determination. It was both agonizing and beautiful to behold. We have to make him think we've disappeared, she offered, a glimmer of strategy igniting within her. Maybe if we hide for a while we can buy time. He has connections, but he can't see every move. The flicker of hope against the blue-black edge of despair created a tiny flame within me. How long can we hide? I asked, grappling for anything that might anchor us against the storm. Long enough to plan, she said, and I could see her thoughts racing. Although fear gripped her, I could sense a fire beginning to awaken within her spirit. Anna moved to comfort her, squeezing Lilith's hand reassuringly, intertwining lives filled with uncertainty, courage, and fractured pasts. Even if we don't have the answer now, we are not alone, Anna said softly, her voice punctuated with empathy. Let's find somewhere safe until we can breathe again. As I shifted the gear and stepped on the gas, a sudden thought crashed into me. What if Lilith's father wasn't just hunting for her? What if this was more? What if the world of wealth and undercurrents that enveloped him extended into darker territories? I had heard rumors about the powerful in this city, whispers of their connections to illicit dealings and shadows that had secrets too rich and too terrible to imagine. Lila, I hesitated, the weight of the unasked question hanging heavily in the air. The city's lights blurred past us, flickering illusions of safety. Is your father involved in anything illegal? She hesitated, the tension in the air thickening as I dared to stare into her eyes, searching for the truth buried beneath layers of fear. Though it was hidden behind her tears, I saw a flash recognition, a flicker of dread. "He's capable of anything," she finally said, her voice quaking. "I've seen things, deals, transactions conducted behind closed doors. I thought if I ignored it, it would go away. But it's all connected, and now he's dragged you into it. My stomach dropped, the final piece crashing into place with terrifying clarity. Lilith's world wasn't just dangerous, it was treacherous in ways we could never fully understand until we were knee-deep in its secrets. Dangerous not only because of her father but also because of what he represented. Panic rushed through me with a vengeance. "What have we gotten into?" I whispered, the dusk of distant streetlights illuminating the depths of our reality. The silence hung thick once more, a heavy blanket obscuring straightforward paths and safe havens. And just when the shadows seemed to welcome us into their depths, a voice cut through, a piercing shriek that froze time. It rang out from the direction of the cafe, echoing through the night air, illuminating our fears like a flash of lightning. "Lila!" A voice boomed, deep and commanding, cutting through the dark with a chilling familiarity. "Where are you?" The realization buried itself in the marrow of my bones. The world around us had tilted, the stakes had escalated, and the hunt was truly on. My heart raced as Lila's name echoed in the night, reverberating with a terrible finality that threatened to drown us both. The darkness had shifted from mere shadows to an unmistakable predator, its breath hot against our necks. I could feel Lilith's panic rising along with my own, transforming the air into a suffocating chamber of dread. "Get down!" Anna hissed, throwing herself across Lilith's lap, instinctively shielding her in the cramped confines of the car. The urgency in her voice cut through the clouds of fear swirling inside me, urging me to act. I glanced momentarily in the rearview mirror, hoping against hope that whatever horror lay behind us was just a figment, an overblown threat fueled by our spiraling fears, but the voice broke through the night again, each syllable pierced me deeper than the last. "I know you're here." The authority in that voice sent ice coursing down my spine. Moments stretched into what felt like ages as I glanced at Lila beside me. She was trembling, her eyes wide with terror, revealing countless layered betrayals in the depths. "Lila," I whispered, my voice shaking as much as her hand. "We have to leave." Now then, before I could even put the car into drive, we heard footsteps, heavy, certain, closing the distance between us like the inevitable buildup of a storm. "You think you can just run away from me?" The voice taunted, mingling fury with disbelief. "You think you can hide?" Panic surged anew as the reality of our situation crashed over us. There was no more time for strategic plans or safe havens. "Go! Just go!" Anna urged, her own resolve burning bright, even as the darkness encroached. I slammed my foot on the gas pedal, peeling out of the parking lot while the world outside blurred into a series of indistinct colors and shapes. But even as I raced forward, fear gripped my chest tighter. My pulse thrummed in my ears, laced with the undeniable anxiety that someone was always just behind us, a shadow on our trail, relentless and powerful. As the city lights flickered past, I glanced sidelong at Lila, unsure if we could even begin to process what was happening. "What do we do?" I finally managed to choke out, each word weighed down by panic. "Find somewhere inconspicuous," she said, her eyes flickering with a calculated fear. She was thinking ahead, trying to forge a path through the thick fog of uncertainty that clouded our minds. "A place where we can gather our thoughts. I know a spot." "Where?" I asked, internally wrestling with regret for a million plans we had just thrown to the wind. "There's an old friend of mine, Lara. She runs a small antique store on 7th Avenue. It's not on the books, my father wouldn't think to look there," Lila replied breathlessly, providing the glimmer of a possible refuge. "Just keep talking." "Keep me grounded," I said, my grip tightening around the wheel, desperate to drown out the siren call of despair whispering against my thoughts. "We used to sneak away there when things got tense at home," she recalled, each word laced with nostalgia and bitterness. "A place filled with stories, a world apart from his grasp. We played hide and seek among treasures and secrets." Suddenly, Anna spoke up from the back, her voice solid and unwavering. "How do we know we can trust this friend? How do we know she won't turn us in?" "Because I trust her," Lila insisted, her voice fierce with conviction. "She's been a refuge before." Just as the name Lara fell from her lips, I could see what lingered in Lilith's eyes, the ghosts of a past she wasn't ready to abandon. "Okay, well go," I said, the resolve in my voice a fragile shield against the tempest about to drown us. But even as I sped toward the avenue Lila mentioned, I felt the creeping anxiety of uncertainty. Below the surface of her determination, I sensed the fracture lines of a girl haunted by fears both old and new. We navigated the dark streets with hurried urgency, each red light felt like a cruel reminder that time was not on our side. Desperation propelled my foot down harder on the gas, and just as I rounded the corner onto 7th Avenue, I caught a glimpse of a figure standing under flickering streetlight. Lila? A face emerged from the darkness, initially obscured, but as she stepped closer, I could see surprise overtaking her features. "We need your help," Lila shouted, fear lacing her voice as she flung open the car door, all pretenses of caution discarded in the face of immediate danger. "Lila, I thought you were the woman's." Eyes widened, and just as unexpected warmth began to radiate from her, a rumble of tires tore through the stillness of the night, echoing a warning that sent shivers down my spine. "Get in now," I shouted, urgent as the predator approached, unseen but powerfully felt, inching closer with every heartbeat. And as Lara scrambled into the passenger seat, pulling Lila close for a protective embrace, I could sense a thrumming tension in the air. The welcoming arms of sanctuary were now tainted by the looming darkness that hunted us. Lila was struggling with the gravity of secrets richer than treasure, and a realization dawned that perhaps Lila's past was only just beginning to unfold in a way neither of us could yet comprehend. The imminent threat of Lila's father still loomed, but suddenly I wondered if there were forces around us that could shift the tides or rather, increase the stakes. Would this refuge provide true safety, or merely deepen the entanglements of a game that was never ours to play? As I considered this, the sudden flash of headlights behind us sent my heart plunging into icy dread, the night unfurling into chaos once more. The chaos that followed was swift and blinding. My heart thundered as I watched the headlights of a car slice through the darkness behind us, illuminating the night like a beacon of our impending doom. In the back seat, Anna pressed against the window, her wide eyes scanning the road as if she could will the danger away. Lila was silent, her body tense beside me, the weight of her past settling uncomfortably in the air like a thick mist. "Drive," Lara urged, her voice a mix of fear and authority that pulled me from my stupor. I crushed the gas pedal, the engine roaring in response. The tires screeched against the pavement, and for a heartbeat, it felt like we were flying, leaving the shadows behind. But I knew that wasn't the reality. The predator was still there, lurking. "Lara, can you call for help?" Lila pleaded, glancing over her shoulder as if expecting her father to emerge from the gloom behind us, a harbinger of chaos. Lara shook her head, the gravity of the situation sinking in. "Not without exposing us all. We need to hide, not escalate." My chest tightened as a painful realization set in. We were alone, surrounded by the shadows of old allyships that may not hold up to the test of fear. I glanced at Lila, her skin pale under the cold light from the dashboard, her eyes clouded with a blend of panic and grim determination. "Where now?" I asked, feeling the urgency pooling in the pit of my stomach. "There's a warehouse a few blocks away, an abandoned one we can use for cover," Lara said, her gaze darting between the road and the rearview mirror. "Are you sure?" Anna questioned, her voice shaking. "How can we trust that it won't just be another trap?" "Because I know it like the back of my hand. It's been empty for years." Lara's voice cracked slightly, signaling the stress beneath her cool facade. The flickering lights of distant buildings loomed in the distance, and my mind raced. Would a hiding spot be enough? Would it buy us time, or would it only prolong the inevitable? "Let's do it," I finally said, meeting Lilith's gaze, steadying myself with her defiance. "We don't have a choice." As I turned onto the side street leading to the warehouse, a heavy silence enveloped us, pressed upon us by the mounting tension. The neighborhood had a bleak beauty, the remnants of an industrial past lingering like ghosts against the tides of progress, but this time, it felt haunted by more than just memories. Of the warehouse loomed ahead, its broken windows resembling dark eyes watching our every move. I pulled into a narrow space at the back, the engine's purring fading into an almost suffocating quiet that swallowed our urgency whole. My heart thudded loudly in my chest as I turned off the car and stared into the void, feeling the weight of what lay inside those walls. "This is it," I said, breaking the silence. "Let's go," Lila said, her voice softened by terror but ignited by fierce resolve. She didn't hesitate as she opened the car door. "Wait," I called, slipping out behind her, the chill of the night wrapping around us like a warning. "We need to be careful." But the moment we stepped into the darkness of the warehouse, the air within felt alive. Dust motes floated in the beams of rescue that filtered through the cracks, illuminating remnants of a life once vibrant. Forgotten tools and rusted machinery surrounded us, each object a testament to the passage of time. Just like us. Over here, Lila said, leading the way into the depths, her voice echoing softly against the cool metal. Lara and Anna followed close behind, our small unit of strength and fear huddled together. The shadows around us felt thicker, oppressive, as if they were made of our fears and regrets. As we ventured deeper, I caught Lila's eye. "Do you remember that time we came here?" she whispered, a softness returning to her features. "We used to play in here, away from everything. We were invincible back then." She was trying to find a thread of hope in the tapestry of despair weaving around us. I wanted to grasp it, to hold on to that memory like a lifeline, but all I saw was darkness. I wish I could go back to those days, I admitted, my own voice cracking under the weight of vulnerability. "Me too," she replied, her smile bittersweet. "But we can't change the past. We can only fight for what we have now." Just as her resolve ignited another flicker of hope, the sound of footsteps echoed from the entrance, sending an icy wave of panic coursing through us. My heart stuttered in my chest, every moment stretching taut as the realization hit me that we had been found. Our refuge was compromised. "Everyone, hide!" I whispered urgently, and we scattered into the shadows, pressing ourselves against the cold, hard walls as the footsteps grew closer. Then, like a punch to the gut, I heard a familiar voice slicing through the tension, thick with authority. "Lila! I know you're here. We can end this tonight." Lila's face, frozen in fear, reflected a depth of sadness I had never seen before. This wasn't just a hunt for her, this was the confrontation of a father desperate to control what he believed was his own. The stakes had shifted again, and I was no longer just a protector. I was a participant in a twisted game that demanded more than I was prepared to offer. Before I could call back to her, the sound of laughter chillingly familiar filled the space. "Your little band of misfits can't shield you forever." It was as though the very shadows of despair had come alive, emboldened by the chaos we were trying to escape. "Lila, we need to go. Now!" I hissed as dread threatened to choke me, but she remained still, captivated by the ghost of her past. "Stay close," I commanded Anna and Lara. But in the thick haze of fear, Lila turned back toward the entrance, walking defiantly into the path of the voice that sought to reclaim her. The shadows danced around us, closing in, as I stood frozen, desperate to bridge the distance between what was lost and what could still be saved. The ground beneath me felt unsteady as I realized that every step forward could threaten our fragile escape. And just as desperation clawed at me, the last words Lila threw into the darkness shook the very foundation of our hope. "I will not run anymore." The silence that followed seemed to echo like a funeral bell, thick and foreboding, as the predator's laughter emptied into the void, leaving nothing but a chilling certainty that the game was far from over. A heavy stillness filled the warehouse, the kind of stillness that preceded the storm. Lila's words hung in the air like a challenge, taunting the darkness that enveloped us. In that split second, as her figure shimmered against the backdrop of looming danger, my heart raced. How had it come to this? How had our bond morphed from childhood promises into a battlefield? "Lila, don't!" I shouted, but the urgency in my words faded into the void as the echoes of her declaration reverberated off the cold, unyielding walls. She held her ground, her back straight and defiant, a haunting image of the little girl I once knew. But this was not just a game of hide and seek anymore. This was a survival instinct against the one man who had always been too large, too powerful, a father whose presence had cast shadows over her life. "Lila!" I cried out again, desperation clawing at my throat. I struggled against the instinct to bolt forward and drag her back to safety. The warehouse felt like it was closing in around us, an arena primed for confrontation. "Lila!" Lara's voice joined mine, a pleading note rising from her chest. "We can fight this together, together?" A cool voice interjected from the entrance, oozing disdain and authority. It was a voice laced with both malice and familiarity, a voice that knew Lila better than any of us did. "You see, that's precisely the issue. You think you can band together and shield her from me?" I taught her better than that. I felt a bolt of recognition shoot through me as the figure emerged partially from the shadows, revealing a silhouette I had never wanted to see again. Jonathan, as imposing as I remembered, tall and broad-shouldered, a specter of dominance born from privilege. "Step back, Lila," I urged, instincts flaring, readying for a fight I hadn't expected to face this night. "I don't want to run anymore." she screamed, her voice breaking yet filled with an intensity one never anticipated. It was a realization of her resilience, of a strength I had watched blossom through our shared past. The predator laughed, a cruel sound that ricocheted against every wall, reverberating through my bones. "Ah, my little girl, that's adorable. You think this is about running? This is about taking control, about showing you what it means to be part of the real world." Control? You've twisted the very fabric of family into your own prison. Lila shot back, a fire igniting in her once timid heart. "I won't let you drag me back into that darkness." The fervor of their exchange twisted in my chest, a whirlwind of emotions spiraling as I grappled with the boundaries of loyalty, love, and fear. The instinctual protector in me wrestled painfully with the realization that Lila was fighting her own battle, one that I might not be able to fight for her. Suddenly, Lara grabbed my arm, pulling me away from the noise. "This isn't just about Lila. We need a plan," she insisted, her eyes darting with uncertain hope. I started, but Lara's grip tightened. "Lila is strong, stronger than she knows. She has to take this step, and we have to support her." "Do you trust her?" The question burned through the haze of panic, igniting something deeper within me. "Of course, I do. But I can't just stand by. Then let's prepare. We need an exit strategy." "If it comes to a confrontation," she trailed off, her eyes brimming with unspoken fears, "then we protect her." The weight of my words settled on us, resolve forming against the tide of chaos rising at the entrance. I glanced back toward Lila, her fierce stance igniting something in me. The shadows were pressing, heavy with Jonathan's contempt, but repeatedly I was drawn to the glow of her spirit, refusing to be extinguished. "Stay close," I whispered to Anna, who squeezed my hand tightly, her face a mix of fear and trust. "Whatever happens, we face it together, right?" Lara nodded, her determination shining alongside the flickering hopes sprouting around us. In that moment, it seemed as if the darkness was yielding ever so slightly, revealing that perhaps we weren't completely trapped just yet. The confrontation unfolded before us, Lila standing firm, Jonathan stepping forward, each encased in their conflicting desires of dominance and freedom. As words flew thick, illuminating the wounds that lingered between them, shadows began to shift. The darkness trembled with every truth spilled, and through it all, I felt a line being drawn in the sand. "Enough." Jonathan's voice boomed, cutting through the fragile web of defiance we had built. His gaze turned toward me, cutting deeply. "You think you can protect her? You're just a distract Iona." Momentary amusement will swiftly erase. With a surge of adrenaline, every instinct pushed me forward. "You're wrong. We are stronger together. You can't take her back. She's not a trophy for you to control." But my bravado shook as I saw Lila's face twisting with conflicting emotions. The haunting past crouched behind her like a feral beast waiting to pounce, and while I had appeared resolute, the painful truth echoed louder than my defiance. I had no idea what Jonathan would do next. There was a fragility in the air that crackled ominously, and just as I prepared to charge forward, a loud crack resounded from above. A beam from the old ceiling, weakened by time and neglect, finally succumbed to gravity. "Look out!" I shouted, as the sound of splintering wood filled the air. In that split second, chaos erupted. Lila vanished from my view just as a shower of debris rained down, plunging us deeper into uncertainty, and the shadows made their move. As I stumbled backward, something heavy crashed to the ground with a thunderous roar. My heart raced, and confusion enveloped me as I fought to process the maelstrom unfolding around us. Dust swirled through the air, blinding me for an agonizing moment. The world grew quiet, save for the sharp crack of splintered wood and the distant growing wail of sirens that had long since been echoing in the distance. "Lila!" I shouted, fear piercing through my chest as I frantically searched the room, instinct driving me forward. I pushed aside a pile of debris to find her, my heart pounding against my ribcage, desperate for any sign of her. "Down here." Her voice emerged from beneath a half-fallen shelf, a tinge of panic entwining her words. I rushed toward her, adrenaline thrumming in my veins. I gripped her hand, helping her up as I scanned her face for any signs of injury. There she was, fragile yet fierce, her blue eyes shimmering with an unyielding spirit that ignited a flicker of hope in the chaos. "Are you hurt?" I asked, my voice thick with urgency, brushing off dirt and dust from her shoulders. She shook her head, but her wide eyes betrayed the torrent of emotions swirling within her, a battle of fear, courage, and resolve. "Not yet," she replied, her tone bearing a mix of determination and vulnerability. In that moment, a connection surged between USA bond formed in the flames of our shared ordeal. She was still standing, still fighting, and that ignited something fierce within me. "Lila, we need to move," Anna urged, her eyes darting nervously as the realization dawned that we couldn't linger here, couldn't hide any longer. The weight of Jonathan's malevolent gaze had shifted from afar to immediate danger, a shadow threatening to swallow us whole. I glanced back toward the entrance, where Jonathan remained unmoving, his expression twisted into a snarl. "You think you can escape me like that?" he barked, stepping forward, but I sensed the uncertainty rippling beneath his bravado now. The fallen beam had disrupted his initial control, fracturing the dynamic that had once seemed so impenetrable. A fierce resolve surged within me. I reached for Lila's hand, intertwining our fingers tightly as an unspoken vow passed between us. "We're not running anymore. We're facing this together." With that, I propelled us forward. "Everyone, follow me," I called urgently, ushering Lila, Anna, and Lara toward the back of the warehouse, each step carrying the weight of our previous fears. We dashed into a narrow corridor barely illuminated by scattered shards of moonlight seeping through cracked windows. "Go, go, go," Lara encouraged, and the urgency catapulted us deeper into the recesses of the abandoned warehouse, where dust danced around us like swirling memories. It was there, away from the echoes of Jonathan's footsteps, that Lila paused, gripping my arm. "I need you to trust me," she said, her voice shivering with intensity. "I have a plan." "What?" I asked, glancing back toward the sound of shifting debris behind us. "What plan?" "We can't just confront him, I know. But I want to turn the tables," she replied, her expression both resolute and weary. "I don't want to hide anymore. This is the moment I reclaim my life." Before I could protest, she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small device that I hadn't noticed before, a tracking device, the very one Jonathan had flaunted before. "He thinks he can track me and use me as a pawn. But I'm going to use this against him." My breath hitched as realization dawned. "We can't expose you. He'll see it as an act of war." Lila shook her head, determination etching deep lines on her brow. "Exactly. Let him think he has control. We can lure him into a trap." Her resolve was a beacon, and although my instincts screamed caution, something deep inside urged me to trust her instincts. Perhaps it was her strength, the same strength that had drawn me to her in that parking lot, the same inner fire that guided her through this ultimate reckoning. "All right," I agreed finally, the weight of my words tethered by that flickering hope. "We do this together. But we have to be smart." As Lila lifted the device, the fractured light glinted off its surface, illuminating the path forward. In that moment, we became not just survivors, but warriors forging our paths against the tides of darkness that threatened to drown us. The sound of footsteps echoed louder. Jonathan was searching, and behind that chaos lay the pulse of our potential. Equipped with Lila's courage and our determination, we could face whatever came. "He'll create a distraction," she said, glancing between Anna and Lara, who both nodded grimly. "You guys need to be ready to counteract. When he shows up expecting to reclaim me, we will turn it on him." "Are you with me?" "Always," I declared, my heart pounding in solidarity with the others. In that flickering moment of agreement, we became a singular force, united against the storm. With renewed urgency, we moved through the darkened corridors of the warehouse, adrenaline coursing through our veins like fire. It felt electric, this rebellion against the overpowering forces we faced, and a chaotic sense of freedom began to spiral outward, igniting everything we were capable of facing. The warehouse was a labyrinth, but as Lila led the charge, resilience reflected off every corner. "Jonathan will never see this coming," Lila whispered, glancing back at me with fierce determination. And then we heard an unmistakable sound of footsteps reverberating through the vast shadows, the silence splintering as his voice emerged, oozing contempt and confidence. "Lila, you can't hide forever. Let's do this," Lila breathed, and in that moment, everything coalesced into a singular thread of purpose. We were ready for confrontation, ready to face the man who had built the cages that surrounded us. As darkness closed in around us, I squeezed Lila's hand, ready to defy the chains that had bound her for too long. In a moment that spanned lifetimes, we charged forward into the light of our choices, ready to unravel the past and reclaim not just her life, but the right to choose our future. And in the heart of darkness, we found our light together. "Here goes nothing," Lila whispered, and I knew we were about to change everything. As we stepped into the clearing under the weight of destiny, I felt a surge of hope as powerful as 1,000 storms. Together, I echoed, and as our world shifted once more, it felt as if we were reborn anew, ready to rewrite the chapters of our tangled fates. In the end, it would be love, not fear, that would guide us home.